I suspect the disciples were disappointed when they came to Jesus, John being the spokesperson, if you will, when they came to Jesus wanting his approval for turning someone away who did not follow them. John says to Jesus, we saw someone casting out demons in your name, and we tried to stop him because he was not following us. And I suspect John wanted Jesus to say, good for you, John. Make sure that no one who is not following us is doing anything in our name. But instead, what did he get? Don't stop him. Let him go on. Let him do a lot more. Because no one who does a great deal of power in my name will soon afterwards start to speak evil of me. So let him go ahead. Do not put any stumbling block before anyone who is doing a good deed in the name of Christ. That should be underlined. A good deed in the name of Christ. Anyone who does good deed in the name of Christ, encourage that one to do even more, Jesus will say to his disciples. Do not prevent him. Encourage him to do even more. And Jesus goes on to talk about stumbling blocks that will be put before people. And those things that will become hindrances, obstacles, in my opinion, to the proclamation of the good news that God so loved the world that God gave of himself. When we hear this message from Mark's gospel, what do you hear? Yesterday I was in Charleston for the workshop that the diocese had about navigating the shift. We had a presentation about how do we get people to come to church? How do we not only get people to come to church, how do we go out to proclaim the good news so that people can come to know Christ and him who was crucified for us? And as we talked about it, I was only able to take part in half of the workshop until noon because I had to get back here. I had a wedding on the beach last night, so I had to try to get back here. But when we are thinking about the stumbling blocks that we put before people, what will prevent someone from walking to this space this morning? I'll tell you the first thing is, if they have not been in this building before, this is the last place they want to come if they haven't been going to church. Here is the real surprise for us in South Carolina. 49% of the population of South Carolina do not belong to any church. So here is the surprise for us, Episcopalians. We assume that the whole place, this is the part of the Bible Belt, right? So everybody have a Bible. Surprise, surprise. People don't belong. Why is that so? I believe Jesus is addressing that in this gospel. Because we have put so many stumbling blocks before people who want to see Jesus. And instead of seeing Jesus, they see us and the institutions we represent. Jesus, we saw someone casting out demons in your name, and we tried to stop him. Don't stop him. Encourage him to do more. No one who does a great deal of power in my name will soon afterward be able to speak evil of me. So what will prevent someone from coming to this place this morning? If they've never been there before, they will come and look and see us doing some funny things and they decide, God, if you get me out of here, I will never come back again. If they came in and all of a sudden I'm doing this, and why is he doing that? Why is he doing that? Some of you are sitting there wondering why I'm doing this all of the time. And then I'm doing this and I'm doing this. Why is he doing all these funny things with his hands? We assume that everybody understands it, so why should I explain it? Isn't that it? Then shortly afterwards, I will be telling you how to come up and take communion if you have been baptized. All of these things we do, we assume that people understand them, and so they will easily accept them and follow through. Surprise, surprise. No, there are a lot of people in our community who have never been a part of an organized church. And so the things we do that we assume that everybody knows, they do not know. What are other obstacles we put before us? At the conclusion of this text, Jesus talked about us living in peace with one another. The other part of my week last week was on Wednesday. I was in Columbia at the Supreme Court of South Carolina in a courtroom packed with clergy who once were all Episcopalians but are now on different sides of the fence. And as I scanned that room, my heart grieved. What are the stumbling blocks we are putting before people who want to see Jesus? It's not always what we do. More often it's what we say that people don't want to have anything to do with those of us who profess to be followers of Christ. As I scanned that room, I knew very well that we were not living in peace with one another. We were divided. The side that left the Episcopal Church and those of us that stayed with the Episcopal Church were all gathered in that room listening to oral arguments being put before the justices and hoping that probably before the end of this year we will get some kind of ruling about where we stand as the Episcopal Church in this part of South Carolina. What are the stumbling blocks we are putting before people? Anyone who would have gone to that courtroom would not have come to church because we were preaching the gospel. They would want to stay as far away from church. If that's how they behave as one denomination, get me the heck out of here. I don't want to have anything to do with that. And that's the same denomination now. Talk about crossing denominational lines. And we are all professing to be followers of Christ. John said to Jesus, we saw someone casting out demons in your name and we tried to stop him. No, Jesus said, don't stop him. Encourage him to do more. Let him do it. Don't put any stumbling block before anyone who is doing a good deed in my name. No one who gives you a cup of water because you are a follower of Christ will lose his reward or her reward. What are the stumbling blocks we are putting before people? What are the stumbling blocks we put before ourselves? The things we take for granted that others don't take for granted. The other part of my week last week, it was an interesting week last week. Friday, I'm walking out of the office, and a young man, a young woman walking with an infant in the car seat. And I assumed they were coming to look for Bob for counseling. And I said, are you here to see Bob? And they looked at me with such surprise, I had to retract and realize that they didn't come to see Bob, they came for something else. So I said, may I help you? And the young man said to me, yeah, we came to check to see what is the requirement to have our infant baptized. Now, they didn't realize I was the pastor. Surprise, surprise, but never mind that. So I said, you just want to have the infant baptized? Do you go to any church? He said, yeah, I used to be an Episcopalian. That's good. I like that word, used to be. We can work on you coming back to the Episcopal Church. The young woman is from the Philippines, and she went to the Independent Church of the Philippines that is that used to be a part of the Episcopal Church. So I already have two persons who have some affinity, if you will, for the Episcopal Church, and standing before me and want to have the infant baptized. So I didn't let the conversation linger too long. I introduced myself to them as the pastor. And surprise, surprise, they took a step back and realized, yes, I'm the pastor of this church, because Sharon was standing in the door and they were trying to get to Sharon to ask for the pastor. So I just stuck at their dad and said, I'm the pastor here. So what you need to do is to get the application form and fill the application form. Then we'll make an appointment for you to come in and talk with me, and I'll be delighted to baptize your infant. When do you want to do that? They said, when she turns 1, December 15. I said, excellent, we'll work on that. But let Sharon give you the application form. Sharon is the secretary of the church. Let her give you the application form, and you all fill it out, drop it off by the church, and we can go from there. They came looking because there was something in the background that brings them to the church. They would not have come looking if they had no church affiliation somewhere. They don't go to church. They've been living in Little River for the last 3 years. But now they want to have the infant baptized. They are looking for the church. Do I look for the stumbling block to prevent them from having the infant baptized? Or do I use that as an opportunity to invite them back into community? I'm going to look for every opportunity to encourage them to engage this place. And if this is not a place that they are comfortable and nurtured in their spiritual walk, then I will encourage them to go where that can happen. But I will gladly baptize the infant when the time comes. I'm not going to give them the long checklist that we give people and all of the instruction how to do. I'm going to let Jesus take care of that. I'm just going to baptize that infant and allow those two young people to find their way in the maze of life that we live in. John said to Jesus, Lord, we saw a man casting out demons in your name, and we tried to stop him because he was not following us. And Jesus said, don't stop him. No one who does a great deed of power in my name will soon afterward be able to speak evil of me. I challenge you this morning, and I challenge myself, as we go forth from this place, not to assume that everyone we run into is a member of some kind of church. Invite your neighbors to come and see. And if this is not where God is going to nurture them, they will go somewhere else. Invite your neighbors to come and see what God is doing in this place. Let us do all in our power to remove all of the stumbling blocks that we have put before people who want to only see Jesus, but instead they see an institution that is so bloated they don't know what to do with it. Let us go forth from this place and tell the world that God loves them in spite of themselves. Think about it. It's not always what we do that will prevent people from coming to church. It's what we say and how we say it that will turn people away. May God empower us this day to go forth from this place with such boldness to be able to speak of Jesus so that someone will have the reason to say, may I come to church with you? And you can say, yes, please come. And you will be welcome. And when you leave, you will be glad you came. Do all in your power to remove the stumbling block that we have so well erected to prevent people from walking into this space and places where Christ is being worshipped, that they may see Christ first before seeing the rest of us and all of the other things we do. May God help us in our proclamation of the good news, that we will be hearers, that God so loved the world that he gave of himself so that the world may come to him and be saved. Amen.